Nearly a century ago, a young journalist was given an assignment that would change the course of history. Napoleon Hill was asked by steel magnate Andrew Carnegie to study the most successful people in America and distill the common principles that made them wealthy and influential. What followed was 20 years of research, hundreds of interviews with titans of industry, and the creation of a blueprint for success that has guided millions of people to achieve their dreams. Think and Grow Rich, published in 1937, has sold over 100 million copies worldwide. It remains one of the most influential books ever written on personal achievement. But here's what most people don't realize. The principles Napoleon Hill discovered aren't just historical artifacts. They're not outdated wisdom from a bygone era. They are timeless truths about human psychology, achievement, and success that are just as relevant today as they were nearly 100 years ago. In a world of constant change, where technology evolves at breakneck speed and entire industries are disrupted overnight, you might think that success principles from the 1930s would be obsolete. But you'd be wrong. Because while the tools and platforms have changed, human nature hasn't. The psychology of success, the mental patterns that separate achievers from dreamers, the disciplines that build fortunes, these are constants. The titans of today's world, the tech entrepreneurs, the social media influencers, the modern business moguls, whether they know it or not, they're following the same principles that Rockefeller, Edison, Ford, and Carnegie followed. The language may have changed. The industries may be different, but the fundamentals remain the same. In this audiobook, we're going to explore those timeless principles. We're going to take Napoleon Hill's most powerful insights and show you how they apply to your life today. We're going to bridge the gap between classic wisdom and modern application. Because understanding these principles isn't enough. You need to know how to use them in the 21st century. Whether you're building a business, climbing the corporate ladder, creating art, or simply trying to improve your life, these principles will serve as your foundation. They've worked for millions of people across generations. They can work for you, but only if you truly understand them. Only if you apply them with intention and consistency. So prepare yourself. What you're about to learn has the power to transform your life. Not because these ideas are new, but because they are true. And truth, real truth about how success works, is the most valuable knowledge you can possess. Let's begin your journey into the timeless principles of success. Chapter 1. Desire, the starting point of all achievement. Napoleon Hill identified desire as the first and most fundamental principle of success. Not casual interest, not vague hoping, but burning, consuming, obsessive desire. The kind that keeps you awake at night. The kind that dominates your thoughts. The kind that refuses to accept no for an answer. Hill tells the story of Edwin Barnes, who had nothing but a burning desire to become a business partner of Thomas Edison. He didn't want to work for Edison. He wanted to work with him. This distinction is crucial. Barnes had no money, no connections, no formal education. What he had was a desire so intense that it was virtually impossible to ignore. Barnes traveled to Edison's laboratory in Orange, New Jersey. He looked like a tramp. He had no appointment. By all logical standards, he should have been turned away at the door. But something in his presence, something about the intensity of his desire, convinced Edison to give him a chance. Not as a partner, not at first, but as a worker at minimum wage. For 5 years, Barnes worked in Edison's organization, not in the capacity he desired, but waiting for his opportunity. And when that opportunity came, in the form of Edison's new dictating machine that nobody else believed in, Barnes recognized it immediately. He saw what others couldn't see because his desire had trained him to see opportunity. He became the exclusive distributor of the Edison dictating machine and eventually achieved his goal of becoming Edison's business associate. This story illustrates a critical truth. Desire isn't just wanting something. It's a state of mind that transforms your perception, your decisions, and your actions. When your desire is strong enough, you see opportunities that others miss. You persist when others quit. You find ways when others find excuses. But here's what most people get wrong about desire. They confuse wishing with desiring. They say they want success, but what they really mean is they wish success would happen to them without effort. True desire, the kind Napoleon Hill is talking about, is inseparable from action. It's not passive. It's active. It demands expression. In the modern world, desire is even more critical because distractions are everywhere. Your attention is constantly being pulled in 1,000 directions. Social media, streaming services, news cycles, endless entertainment options. If your desire isn't strong enough to cut through all that noise, you'll drift. You'll consume instead of create. You'll spectate instead of participate. Think about the most successful people you know or have read about. Elon Musk, obsessed with making humanity multiplanetary. Oprah Winfrey, driven by a desire to elevate consciousness through media. Jeff Bezos, consumed with the idea of building Earth's most customer-centric company. Their desires aren't casual. They're all-consuming. You don't need to have world-changing ambitions. But you do need desire that's strong enough to pull you forward when everything else is pulling you back. So here's the question you need to answer with brutal honesty. What do you truly desire? Not what do you think you should want. Not what would be nice to have. What do you desire with an intensity that borders on obsession? Write it down. Be specific. And then ask yourself, is my current life reflecting this desire? Are my daily actions aligned with what I claim to want? If not, then either your desire isn't strong enough, or you're lying to yourself about what you really want. Desire is the furnace that powers everything else. Without it, all the other principles are useless. With it, everything becomes possible. This is where your success journey begins. Not with strategy, not with tactics, but with desire so strong that failure becomes impossible because you simply refuse to accept it. In the next chapter, we're going to talk about the principle that transforms desire into reality. Faith. Because desire without faith is just wishful thinking. But desire combined with faith becomes an unstoppable force. Chapter 2. Faith, the visualization and belief in attainment. Napoleon Hill's second principle is faith, which he defines as the visualization of and belief in the attainment of desire. This isn't religious faith, though it can include that. This is faith in yourself. Faith in your ability to achieve what you've set out to do. Faith in the process, even when you can't see the results yet. Hill discovered that every person who achieved significant success had one thing in common. They believed they would succeed long before they had any logical reason to believe it. They saw their success in their mind with such clarity and conviction that it was only a matter of time before their outer reality matched their inner vision. This is where most people fail. They wait for evidence before they believe. They want to see results before they commit fully. But that's backwards. Faith comes first. Results come second. You have to believe it before you see it, not the other way around. Consider the story of Henry Ford and the V8 engine. His engineers told him it was impossible to create an 8-cylinder engine in a single block. Every expert in the field agreed. It couldn't be done. But Ford didn't accept that. He had faith in the vision. He told his engineers to keep working on it, and they did, for an entire year, with no progress. Still, Ford's faith didn't waver. Eventually, they found the solution. The impossible became possible because one man refused to stop believing. In today's world, faith is tested constantly. We live in an instant gratification culture. We expect results immediately. We post something on social media and check for likes within minutes. We start a business and expect it to be profitable within months. When success doesn't come quickly, we lose faith. We start doubting. We quit. But the most successful people today understand what Napoleon Hill taught nearly a century ago. There's a gestation period for every achievement. Just like a seed planted in the ground doesn't sprout the next day, your goals need time to materialize. During that time, faith is what sustains you. So how do you develop this kind of faith? Hill provides specific techniques, and they're surprisingly practical. First, you must clearly define what you desire and write it down. Vague desires produce vague results. Specificity creates focus, and focus builds faith. Second, you must repeat your written statement of desire out loud every day, morning and night. This is autosuggestion, the process of influencing your subconscious mind through repetition. Your subconscious doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's vividly imagined. When you repeatedly tell it something with emotion and conviction, it accepts it as truth and begins working to make it reality. Third, you must visualize yourself already in possession of your desire. See it in detail. Feel the emotions you'll feel when you achieve it. Make it real in your mind. The more real it becomes in your imagination, the more your subconscious accepts it as inevitable, and the more your actions align automatically with making it happen. Fourth, you must take consistent action toward your goal. Faith without action is delusion. But action without faith is exhausting and unsustainable. When you combine faith with action, you create momentum. Each small win reinforces your belief, which fuels more action, which creates more wins. It's a virtuous cycle. Let me give you a modern example. Before he became a Hollywood superstar, Jim Carrey was a struggling comedian. He was broke, his family was living in a van, and his career seemed hopeless. But Carrey had faith. He wrote himself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered, dated it 10 years in the future, and carried it in his wallet. Every day, he visualized himself being a successful actor. He saw it so clearly that it felt real. 10 years later, just before the date on the check, he was offered exactly $10 million for his role in Dumb and Dumber. Coincidence? Maybe. But Carrey's faith shaped his decisions, his work ethic, and his willingness to take risks that others wouldn't. His faith created his reality. Here's the key distinction. Faith isn't blind optimism. It's not ignoring reality. It's choosing to believe in your ability to shape reality. It's understanding that your current circumstances are temporary and that you have the power to change them. Many people struggle with faith because they've been conditioned to doubt themselves. Every failure, every criticism, every disappointment has reinforced the belief that success isn't for them. But Hill teaches that faith can be developed. It's not something you're born with. It's something you build through conscious effort and repetition. Start today. Define your desire with clarity. Write it down. Read it aloud twice a day with emotion and conviction. Visualize it as already achieved. And take one action, no matter how small, that moves you toward it. Do this consistently, and watch as your faith grows stronger and your results begin to manifest. In the next chapter, we'll explore the principle of autosuggestion, the method by which you influence your subconscious mind to work for you instead of against you. Chapter 3. Autosuggestion, the medium for influencing the subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is the most powerful force you have access to. It controls your heartbeat, your breathing, your immune system, and countless other functions without you having to think about them. But it also controls your beliefs, your habits, your emotional responses, and ultimately your actions. Napoleon Hill discovered that the subconscious mind accepts whatever you feed it, whether positive or negative, true or false. It doesn't judge or filter. It simply takes what you give it and makes it part of your programming. This is both a danger and an opportunity. Most people go through life unconsciously programming their subconscious with negative thoughts. I'm not good enough. I always fail. Success isn't for people like me. I don't have what it takes. These thoughts, repeated thousands of times, become deep beliefs. And those beliefs shape everything you do. Autosuggestion is the antidote. It's the practice of consciously and deliberately feeding your subconscious mind positive, empowering thoughts. It's taking control of your mental programming instead of letting it run on autopilot. Hill emphasizes that autosuggestion must be done with emotion and repetition. Simply reading affirmations once in a monotone voice does nothing. But when you speak your desires with genuine feeling, when you visualize them with vivid detail, when you repeat them consistently over time, your subconscious begins to accept them as truth. Let's talk about how this works. Your subconscious mind communicates through feelings and images, not logic and words. So when you practice autosuggestion, you're not trying to convince your logical mind. You're bypassing it entirely and speaking directly to the subconscious. Here's the method Hill recommends. Write a clear, specific statement of what you desire. Include the exact amount if it's financial. Include the timeline. Include what you're willing to give in return for achieving it. This last part is crucial. Success isn't free. You have to be willing to pay the price, whether that's time, effort, risk, or sacrifice. Then, find a quiet place where you won't be interrupted. Read your statement aloud with as much emotion and conviction as you can muster. As you read, visualize yourself already in possession of what you desire. See it, feel it, make it as real in your mind as possible. Do this first thing in the morning and last thing at night. These are the times when your subconscious is most receptive. In the morning, you're setting the tone for your day. At night, your subconscious will work on it while you sleep. In the modern world, autosuggestion is more important than ever because we're constantly being bombarded with messages that program our subconscious negatively. Advertising tells you you're not good enough until you buy their product. News media tells you the world is dangerous and falling apart. Social media shows you everyone else's highlight reel, making you feel inadequate. If you're not deliberately programming your mind with positive, empowering thoughts, you're allowing the world to program you with fear, scarcity, and limitation. And that programming will determine your results. Consider the example of Muhammad Ali. Before he became the greatest boxer of all time, he was constantly repeating, "I am the greatest." People thought he was arrogant, but he was practicing autosuggestion. He was programming his subconscious to believe it, and that belief shaped his training, his performance, and ultimately his legacy. Or think about Conor McGregor in the modern era of mixed martial arts. Before every fight, he visualizes victory in obsessive detail. He sees himself winning. He feels the emotions. He speaks it into existence. And more often than not, reality conforms to his vision. This isn't magic. It's psychology. When your subconscious believes something is true, it directs all your resources toward making it true. It filters information through that belief. It guides your decisions. It shapes your body language, your confidence, your persistence. Everything aligns. But there's a catch. Your subconscious is also influenced by your environment and the people around you. If you're practicing autosuggestion in the morning and evening, but spending the rest of your day around negative people who doubt you, their influence might overpower your efforts. This is why Hill's later principle of the mastermind is so important. But we'll get to that. For now, focus on taking control of your mental programming. Here's your action step. Write your definite chief aim, the one thing you desire most. Make it specific. Make it measurable. Include a timeline. Then commit to reading it aloud twice a day with emotion and visualization. Do this for 30 days without missing a single day. Track it. Make it non-negotiable. After 30 days, evaluate. Has your thinking changed? Have your actions changed? Have your results begun to shift? Most people who do this consistently report profound changes, not just in their external circumstances, but in how they feel about themselves and their capabilities. Remember, your subconscious mind is listening to you all the time. The question is, what are you telling it? Are you programming it for success or failure? For confidence or doubt? For possibility or limitation? Take control of that conversation, and you take control of your life. In the next chapter, we'll explore specialized knowledge, because desire and faith without knowledge are like a car without fuel. You need both the engine and the energy to make it run. Chapter 4. Specialized knowledge, personal experiences or observations. Napoleon Hill makes a crucial distinction that most people miss. General knowledge, no matter how vast, is useless for creating wealth or achieving specific goals. What you need is specialized knowledge. knowledge directly related to your chosen field or objective. Hill himself wasn't highly educated in the traditional sense. Yet he studied with and learned from the most successful people of his time. He understood that it's not about knowing a little about everything. It's about knowing a lot about the specific things that will help you achieve your aims. In today's world, this principle is even more critical. We're drowning in information. You can access more knowledge in 5 minutes on your smartphone than a person 100 years ago could access in a lifetime. But most of that knowledge is general, scattered, and ultimately useless for achievement. The internet is full of people who know a little about everything but master nothing. They consume content endlessly but never focus long enough to develop real expertise. They're generalists in a world that rewards specialists. Think about the most successful people in any field. They're not necessarily the smartest in a general sense, but they know their specific domain better than almost anyone else. Elon Musk understands rocket science, electric vehicles, and neural interfaces at a level that allows him to compete with massive established industries. He's not a generalist. He's a specialist multiplied. Warren Buffett doesn't know how to code. He's not an expert in most things, but he knows investing and business valuation better than almost anyone alive. That specialized knowledge has made him one of the wealthiest people on earth. The same principle applies to you, regardless of your field. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you need specialized knowledge about business, marketing, sales, and your specific industry. If you want to advance in your career, you need to become the go-to expert in your area. If you want to create art, you need deep knowledge of your craft. But here's Hill's most important insight about specialized knowledge. You don't have to personally possess all the knowledge you need. You can borrow it. You can hire it. You can partner with people who have it. What matters is that you have access to it and know how to organize it toward your purpose. Henry Ford was once challenged in court, accused of being ignorant. The lawyers tried to embarrass him by asking technical questions he couldn't answer. Ford's response was brilliant. He pointed to a row of buttons on his desk and said he could summon experts on any subject he needed at a moment's notice. He didn't need to know everything. He needed to know who to ask and how to organize their knowledge. In the modern era, this is even easier. You can learn almost anything online. You can hire freelancers with specialized skills. You can join masterminds and communities of experts. You can build a team that compensates for your weaknesses. But there's a caveat. You do need to know enough to ask the right questions and make informed decisions. You can't be completely ignorant and expect to succeed. You need foundational knowledge in your field and deep expertise in your specific area of focus. Here's the process Hill recommends for acquiring specialized knowledge. First, decide exactly what kind of knowledge you need. Don't try to learn everything. Focus on what's directly relevant to your goal. If you're building an online business, you might need to learn about digital marketing, copywriting, and sales psychology. If you're advancing in corporate, you might need to learn leadership, strategic thinking, and industry-specific technical skills. Second, identify the sources of that knowledge. Is it in books, courses, mentors, training programs, universities, online platforms? Today you have more options than ever. But beware of low-quality sources. Not all information is created equal. Third, create a plan to acquire that knowledge systematically. Don't just consume randomly. Have a curriculum. Set aside dedicated time for learning. Make it a priority, not something you do when you feel like it. Fourth, and this is crucial, apply what you learn immediately. Knowledge without application is just entertainment. You haven't really learned something until you've used it to create results. Study, then do. Then study more, then do more. Fifth, surround yourself with people who have the specialized knowledge you're seeking. Join professional associations. Attend conferences. Engage in online communities. Proximity to expertise accelerates your own development. Let me give you a modern example. When Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook, he was a skilled programmer, but he lacked business knowledge. So he partnered with people who had it. He brought in Sheryl Sandberg to handle the business side. He surrounded himself with advisors who understood things he didn't. He focused on his specialized knowledge of product and technology while ensuring he had access to expertise in other areas. The same strategy applies regardless of your level. If you're just starting out, you might not be able to hire top talent. But you can read books written by experts. You can take online courses. You can find mentors who are a few steps ahead of you. You can join communities and learn from peers. Here's your action step. Identify the 3 most important areas of specialized knowledge for your goal. Write them down. Then for each area, identify the top 3 resources or people who can help you develop that knowledge. Finally, commit to spending at least 1 hour per day acquiring and applying specialized knowledge. Remember, in a world where information is abundant, specialized knowledge combined with action is what creates value. Don't be a generalist who knows a little about everything. Be a specialist who knows a lot about what matters. That's where your competitive advantage lives. In the next chapter, we'll explore imagination, the workshop where all plans are created and where specialized knowledge is transformed into action. Chapter 5. Imagination. The workshop of the mind. Napoleon Hill identifies 2 forms of imagination: synthetic imagination and creative imagination. Synthetic imagination rearranges existing ideas, concepts, and plans into new combinations. Creative imagination creates something from nothing, tapping into infinite intelligence to produce entirely new ideas. Most people use only synthetic imagination, and even then, sparingly. They operate within the boundaries of what already exists, rearranging the familiar rather than creating the novel. But every great fortune, every revolutionary product, every transformative idea began in someone's imagination. Before the Wright brothers built the first airplane, they imagined it. Before Walt Disney created Disneyland, he imagined it so vividly that he could walk through it in his mind. Before Steve Jobs created the iPhone, he imagined a device that would put a computer, a phone, and an entertainment system in everyone's pocket. Imagination isn't just for artists and inventors. It's the starting point of all achievement. Your current reality is the result of yesterday's imagination. Your future reality will be the result of what you imagine today. But here's what most people get wrong. They think imagination is about fantasy, about dreaming without doing. That's not what Hill is talking about. He's talking about the disciplined use of imagination to create clear mental pictures of what you want to achieve, and then using those pictures as blueprints for action. In the modern world, imagination is both easier and harder to use. It's easier because you have access to more information and inspiration than ever before. You can see what's possible because the internet shows you examples from around the world. It's harder because you're constantly being fed other people's imagination through media, and it's easy to become a consumer rather than a creator. Think about how much time the average person spends consuming other people's creative output. Movies, TV shows, social media, YouTube videos, podcasts. There's nothing wrong with consumption in moderation. But if you're only consuming and never creating, you're using other people's imagination as a substitute for developing your own. The most successful people today are relentless in protecting time for imagination. They schedule it. They create space for it. They know that the quality of their imagination directly determines the quality of their results. Elon Musk imagines colonies on Mars. That imagination drives every decision at SpaceX. Jeff Bezos imagined an everything store and a future where space resources support Earth. Sarah Blakely imagined a better undergarment and built Spanx into $1 billion company. Each of them used imagination as a tool, not as an escape. So how do you develop and use your imagination effectively? He'll provide several methods. First, feed your imagination with relevant material. Read about your field. Study success stories. Expose yourself to new ideas and perspectives. Your imagination works with the material you give it. Garbage in, garbage out. Second, set aside dedicated time for imagination. This isn't daydreaming while you're supposed to be working. This is scheduled, focused time where you deliberately imagine solutions, possibilities, and pathways to your goals. Many successful people do this during walks, in the shower, or in meditation. Third, write down what you imagine. Vague mental images fade quickly. When you write them down or sketch them out, you make them concrete. You can refine them, improve them, and eventually turn them into plans. Fourth, combine your specialized knowledge with your imagination. Knowledge gives you the building blocks. Imagination shows you how to arrange them in new and valuable ways. The most powerful innovations come from combining existing knowledge in ways no one has tried before. Fifth, share your imaginative ideas with trusted people. Sometimes the act of verbalizing an idea helps you refine it, and sometimes others can see possibilities or problems you missed. Let me give you a practical example. Let's say you want to start a business, but you're not sure what kind. Don't just think about it vaguely. Set aside an hour. Sit with a notebook. Imagine yourself 5 years in the future running a successful business. What does a typical day look like? What value are you providing? Who are your customers? How do they feel after interacting with your business? Let your imagination run with this. Write down everything that comes to mind. Then take what you've imagined and combine it with specialized knowledge about markets, trends, and opportunities. Your imagination showed you the vision. Knowledge helps you figure out if it's viable and how to make it real. This is exactly what Brian Chesky and his co-founders did when they created Airbnb. They imagined a world where anyone could rent out their space to travelers. Everyone told them it wouldn't work. Why would someone let a stranger stay in their home? But they held on to the imagination, combined it with knowledge about trust systems and online platforms, and built a company worth billions. Your imagination is the most valuable asset you have. It costs nothing to use, but its potential value is unlimited. The chair you're sitting on, the device you're listening to this on, the building you're in, all of it started in someone's imagination before it became physical reality. Here's your challenge. Spend 30 minutes today in pure imagination. Don't judge. Don't edit. Just imagine the ideal version of your life, your work, your impact. Make it vivid. Make it detailed. Write it down. Then ask yourself, what's the first step to making this real? In the next chapter, we'll talk about organized planning, because imagination without a plan is just a pleasant dream. Planning is what transforms imagination into reality. Chapter 6. Organized planning, the crystallization of desire into action. Desire gives you the target. Faith gives you the belief you can hit it. Imagination shows you the path. But organized planning is what actually gets you there. This is where most people fail. They have the vision. They have the motivation. But they don't have a concrete, actionable plan. Napoleon Hill emphasizes that your plan must be specific, practical, and constantly refined. It's not enough to have a vague idea of what you'll do. You need to know exactly what actions you'll take, when you'll take them, and how you'll measure progress. Hill also makes it clear that your first plan will probably fail. So will your second, maybe your third. But that doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're learning. Every failed plan gives you information. Every setback shows you what doesn't work. The key is to keep revising your plan until you find one that does work. In today's fast-paced world, this principle is more relevant than ever. Markets change quickly. Technology evolves. Competition emerges overnight. A rigid plan that doesn't adapt is a recipe for failure. But a flexible plan that can pivot based on feedback is powerful. Think about how software is developed today. Agile methodology is all about organized planning with built-in flexibility. You plan a sprint, execute it, evaluate the results, and adjust for the next sprint. You're always planning, always executing, always learning, always improving. This is the mindset you need to bring to your personal goals. You're not creating a perfect plan that will work forever. You're creating a working plan that you'll continually improve. Let's talk about the components of an effective plan. First, you need a clear objective. What exactly are you trying to achieve? Be specific. Instead of "I want to be wealthy," say "I want to earn $500,000 per year through my business." Instead of "I want to be fit," say "I want to lose 30 pounds and build enough muscle to bench press my body weight." Second, you need a timeline. When will you achieve this objective? Without a deadline, there's no urgency. And without urgency, plans get pushed aside for more immediate concerns. Third, you need to identify the key actions required. What are the main things you must do to achieve your objective? Break it down. If you want to build a business, you might need to develop a product, build an audience, create a sales system, and deliver value. Each of these is a major action that can be broken down further. Fourth, you need to assign priorities. What must happen first? What can wait? What's the critical path? Many people fail because they work on the wrong things. They're busy but not productive. They're active but not effective. Fifth, you need to allocate resources. What will it cost in time, money, and energy? Do you have those resources? If not, how will you get them? Many plans fail not because they're bad plans, but because they require resources the person doesn't have and hasn't figured out how to obtain. Sixth, you need to anticipate obstacles. What could go wrong? What's likely to go wrong? How will you respond if it does? This isn't pessimism. It's preparedness. The people who succeed aren't the ones who never face obstacles. They're the ones who have planned for them. Seventh, you need accountability and tracking. How will you measure progress? Who will hold you accountable? What milestones will indicate you're on track? Without measurement, you're just guessing. Napoleon Hill also emphasizes the importance of building a mastermind group, which we'll explore in depth in a later chapter. But it's worth noting here that organized planning is much more effective when done in collaboration with others who share your ambition and have complementary skills. Let me give you a modern example of organized planning in action. When Reed Hastings started Netflix, his initial plan was to mail DVDs to customers. That plan worked for a while, but he was constantly refining it. When streaming technology became viable, he pivoted the entire business model. When content became expensive to license, he started producing original content. Each pivot was based on organized planning, execution, evaluation, and adjustment. If Hastings had stuck rigidly to his original plan, Netflix would be dead. If he'd had no plan and just winged it, Netflix would never have gotten off the ground. The sweet spot is having a clear plan while remaining flexible enough to adapt when reality demands it. Here's your action step. Take your primary goal and create a 90-day plan for it. Write down your specific objective for the next 3 months. List the top 5 actions you need to take. Assign each action a deadline. Identify the resources you'll need. Anticipate the top 3 obstacles you might face. Decide how you'll measure progress weekly. Then, at the end of each week, review your plan. What worked? What didn't? What needs to change? Make adjustments and plan the next week. This weekly planning and review process is the heartbeat of achievement. Remember, a plan isn't a prison. It's a map. And maps are useful only if you're willing to adjust your route when you encounter unexpected terrain. Stay focused on your destination. Stay flexible in your path. That's the essence of organized planning. In the next chapter, we'll discuss decision, because even the best plan is worthless if you can't make and stick to the decisions required to execute it. Chapter 7. Decision: The Mastery of Procrastination. Napoleon Hill studied thousands of successful people and found one trait they all shared. They made decisions quickly and changed them slowly, if at all. In contrast, unsuccessful people took forever to make decisions and then changed them constantly based on the opinions of others. This is profound. In a world of infinite information and endless options, the ability to make clear, confident decisions and stick to them is rare and valuable. Most people are paralyzed by choice. They overthink. They wait for perfect information. They seek consensus. And while they're deliberating, opportunities pass them by. Hill tells the story of the 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence. They made the decision to support independence knowing it could cost them their lives. They didn't waffle. They didn't wait for more information. They decided, signed, and committed fully. That decision changed the world. Indecision is a habit. Decision is also a habit. The more you practice making decisions quickly, the better you get at it. The more you practice delaying decisions, the weaker your decision-making muscle becomes. In the modern world, we're actually getting worse at decision-making, not better. Why? Because we have too many options. Psychologists call it decision fatigue and choice overload. When you're faced with endless possibilities, your brain struggles. It wants more information. It wants to compare all options. It wants to be sure. But that certainty never comes. Think about how long people spend choosing what to watch on Netflix. Sometimes longer than the actual show they end up watching. That might seem trivial, but it's a symptom of a larger problem. We've lost the ability to decide quickly and move forward. The most successful people today have systems to reduce decision fatigue. They create routines that eliminate trivial decisions. Steve Jobs wore the same outfit every day. Barack Obama did the same. Not because they couldn't afford variety, but because they didn't want to waste decision-making energy on clothes when they had important decisions to make. But beyond reducing trivial decisions, they've also mastered the art of making important decisions quickly. How? They have clarity on their values and priorities. When you know what matters most, decisions become easier. You're not weighing infinite variables. You're asking, does this align with my priorities? If yes, proceed. If no, pass. Jeff Bezos talks about Type 1 and Type 2 decisions. Type 1 decisions are irreversible or very costly to reverse. These require careful thought. Type 2 decisions are reversible. These should be made quickly. Most decisions are Type 2, but people treat them like Type 1. They agonize over things that can easily be undone if they don't work out. Let's talk about why people struggle with decisions. Fear is the primary reason. Fear of making the wrong choice. Fear of what others will think. Fear of losing what they have. Fear of the unknown. This fear manifests as procrastination, as seeking more information, as soliciting endless opinions. But here's the truth. Not deciding is a decision. When you fail to make a choice, you've chosen to let circumstances or other people decide for you. That's not avoiding risk. It's actually the biggest risk of all because you've given up control. Napoleon Hill emphasizes that you should make decisions in consultation with trusted advisors, but the final decision must be yours. Don't let others' opinions override your own judgment, especially if those people aren't where you want to be in life. There's a phenomenon called the opinion effect. The more people's opinions you seek, the more confused you become. Everyone has a different perspective based on their own experiences, fears, and biases. If you ask 10 people whether you should start a business, you'll get 10 different answers, and you'll be more uncertain than when you started. Instead, consult with 1 or 2 people who have achieved what you're trying to achieve. Get their perspective. But ultimately, trust yourself. You have to live with the consequences of your decisions, not them. Here's a practical framework for making decisions quickly. First, clearly define the decision you need to make. Many people struggle because they haven't actually articulated what they're deciding. Second, set a deadline for the decision. If it's a Type 2 decision, give yourself no more than 24 hours. If it's Type 1, perhaps a week. But set the deadline and honor it. Third, gather only the essential information you need. Don't fall into analysis paralysis. You'll never have perfect information. Get enough to make an informed choice, then stop. Fourth, consider your gut feeling. Your intuition is the sum of all your experiences and pattern recognition. It's not infallible, but it's worth listening to, especially after you've gathered information. Fifth, make the decision and commit to it fully. Don't second guess. Don't keep researching after you've decided. Move forward with confidence. Sixth, if new information emerges that genuinely changes the situation, be willing to adjust. But adjust deliberately, not reactively based on fear or someone's offhand comment. Here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, practice quick decision-making. Set a rule that any decision that can be made in under 5 minutes gets made immediately. No deliberation. No seeking opinions. Just decide based on the information at hand. Watch how this builds your decision-making muscle and how much faster you move through life. Remember, speed of decision-making is directly correlated with success. Not because fast decisions are always right, but because fast decision-makers take action, learn from results, and adjust. They move while others are still thinking. In the next chapter, we'll explore persistence, because decisions mean nothing if you quit at the first sign of difficulty. Chapter 8. Persistence, the sustained effort necessary to induce faith. Napoleon Hill identified persistence as one of the most essential factors in turning desire into monetary equivalent. He observed that lack of persistence is one of the major causes of failure. People give up too soon, usually just before breakthrough. Persistence is the direct result of the strength of your desire, your definiteness of purpose, and your mastermind support. But it's also a decision. You can choose to persist even when you don't feel like it. In fact, that's when persistence matters most. Hill studied countless cases of people who failed repeatedly before succeeding massively. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before creating the working light bulb. Darby quit gold mining just 3 feet from the vein. Colonel Sanders was rejected over 1,000 times before someone bought his chicken recipe. The difference between those who succeeded and those who didn't wasn't talent or luck. It was persistence. In today's instant gratification culture, persistence is rarer and therefore more valuable than ever. We're conditioned to expect quick results. We start something, and if we don't see progress within days or weeks, we quit and move on to the next thing. This constant starting and stopping ensures mediocrity. Look at social media. People start channels, get discouraged when they don't go viral immediately, and quit. They start businesses, don't make money in the first month, and shut down. They start working out, don't see abs in 2 weeks, and stop going to the gym. The problem isn't the strategy. It's the lack of persistence. The most successful people today are the ones who persisted through the dip, that period where effort is high but results are low. Seth Godin calls it the dip. Napoleon Hill called it temporary defeat. Whatever you call it, it's the graveyard of dreams. Most people quit here. The ones who push through emerge victorious. But persistence isn't just about grinding mindlessly. It's about intelligent persistence. It's about staying committed to your goal while being willing to adjust your approach. Remember, organized planning requires flexibility. Persistence requires determination. The combination is powerful. Let's talk about the enemies of persistence. The first is lack of a definite purpose. If you don't know exactly what you want and why you want it, you'll quit when things get hard because you have no compelling reason to continue. This is why the desire and definite chief aim principles are so foundational. The second enemy is criticism and lack of support. If everyone around you is telling you your goal is impossible or stupid, it wears you down. This is why surrounding yourself with a positive mastermind group is critical. You need people who believe in you, especially when you're struggling to believe in yourself. The third enemy is fear. Fear of criticism, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of the unknown. Fear drains your willpower and makes persistence feel impossible. We'll address fear in detail in a later chapter, but for now, know that the antidote to fear is action. When you're acting, you're not fearing. The fourth enemy is lack of willpower. Willpower is like a muscle. It gets tired with use but also gets stronger with training. If you've never persisted at anything before, your willpower muscle is weak. But the good news is it can be developed. So how do you develop persistence? Napoleon Hill provides a 4-step formula. First, have a definite purpose backed by burning desire. We keep coming back to this because it's fundamental. Without strong desire, persistence is impossible. With it, persistence is natural. Second, develop a definite plan and take continuous action. Random effort doesn't build persistence. Consistent, directed action does. Even small actions, taken daily, build the persistence habit. Third, close your mind against negative influences. Stop listening to people who doubt you. Stop consuming media that tells you it's impossible. Protect your mental environment ruthlessly. Fourth, form an alliance with a mastermind group. Having people who are also persisting toward their own goals creates collective momentum. You support each other through the tough times. Let me give you a modern example. J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter manuscript was rejected by 12 publishers. She was a single mother on welfare, struggling to survive. Most people would have given up. But she persisted. One publisher finally took a chance. The rest is history. 7 books. A billion-dollar franchise. A cultural phenomenon. But only because she refused to quit. Or consider Sylvester Stallone. He was broke, sleeping in a bus station, so desperate he sold his dog because he couldn't afford to feed it. He wrote Rocky in 3 days. Studios wanted to buy it, but they didn't want him to star in it. He refused every offer until someone agreed to let him play the lead, even though it meant taking far less money. He persisted in his vision. The result was an iconic film and a legendary career. Your story might not be as dramatic, but the principle is the same. Success requires continuing when others quit. It requires showing up when you don't feel like it. It requires trying again after failing. It requires belief when there's no evidence yet. Here's your action step. Identify one area where you've been inconsistent. Maybe you've started and stopped multiple times. Write down why it matters to you. Write down what you'll lose if you quit. Write down what you'll gain if you persist. Then commit to 60 days of consistent action, no matter what. 60 days is long enough to get past the dip and start seeing results. In the next chapter, we'll explore the power of the mastermind, one of Hill's most revolutionary concepts. Because persistence is easier when you're not alone. Chapter 9. The Mastermind, the Driving Force. This is one of Napoleon Hill's most powerful and least understood principles. He defines a mastermind as the coordination of knowledge and effort between 2 or more people who work toward a definite purpose in a spirit of harmony. Hill discovered that behind every great fortune and achievement was a mastermind group. Andrew Carnegie had his mastermind. Henry Ford had his. Thomas Edison had his. These weren't just networking groups or casual friendships. They were deliberate alliances of minds united toward mutual success. The Mastermind Principle works on 2 levels. The first is economic. When you combine your knowledge, skills, and efforts with others, you multiply your capability. Things that would be impossible alone become achievable together. The second level is psychic or spiritual. Hill observed that when minds come together in harmony, they create a third mind, a collective intelligence greater than the sum of its parts. This isn't mystical nonsense. Modern neuroscience supports this. When people collaborate effectively, they literally sync their brain waves. Ideas flow. Solutions emerge. Synergy happens. In today's connected world, the potential for mastermind groups is greater than ever. You're not limited to people in your geographic area. You can form masterminds with people anywhere in the world. Online tools make coordination easier. Yet most people still go it alone. Why? Because building a true mastermind requires vulnerability, commitment, and careful selection. You can't mastermind with just anyone. You need people who share your level of ambition, who operate with integrity, who are willing to give as much as they receive. Let's talk about how to build an effective mastermind group. First, be clear about your purpose. What are you trying to achieve? Your mastermind should be composed of people working towards similar or complementary goals. A group where everyone is pursuing different things with different values won't have harmony. Second, select members carefully. Look for people who are where you want to be or slightly ahead of you. Look for people with different skills and perspectives who can fill gaps in your own knowledge. Look for people who are positive, committed, and action-oriented. Third, keep the group small. 3 to 5 people is ideal. Too many people and coordination becomes difficult. Too few and you don't get enough diversity of perspective. Fourth, meet regularly. Weekly is ideal, but at minimum, every other week. Consistency is crucial. These meetings should be scheduled and treated as non-negotiable. Fifth, have structure. Don't just chat aimlessly. Each meeting should have a purpose. Each person shares progress, challenges, and asks for specific help. The group problem solves together. Then everyone commits to specific actions before the next meeting. Sixth, maintain confidentiality and trust. What's shared in the mastermind stays in the mastermind. This creates safety for vulnerability and honesty. Seventh, be willing to give more than you receive. The best mastermind members are generous with their knowledge, connections, and support. What goes around comes around. Modern examples of mastermind principles at work are everywhere. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, Bill Gates and Paul Allen, Larry Page and Sergey Brin. None of these people would have achieved what they did alone. Their partnership, their mastermind alliance, multiplied their individual capabilities exponentially. PayPal Mafia is another example. The early employees and founders of PayPal formed such strong bonds and learned so much together that after PayPal was sold, they went on to create LinkedIn, YouTube, Yelp, Tesla, SpaceX, and numerous other successful companies. Their mastermind continued long after the original business ended. You might be thinking, I don't know anyone at that level. That's okay. You don't need to start with billionaires. You need to start with people who are 1 or 2 steps ahead of where you are, or on the same journey and equally committed. You can find potential mastermind partners in online communities related to your field, at conferences and events, through mutual connections, or by reaching out to people you admire and proposing collaboration. The key is to offer value, not just ask for help. Let me tell you about a modern mastermind I'm aware of. A group of 5 online entrepreneurs, none famous, meet every Monday morning via Zoom. Each person has 15 minutes to share their week, their challenges, and their wins. The others ask questions, offer suggestions, make connections, and hold each other accountable. Over 3 years, every person in that group has at least doubled their business. One has scaled to 7 figures. None of them think they would have succeeded without the group. That's the power of the mastermind. Keeps you accountable. It gives you perspective when you're stuck. It celebrates with you when you win. It picks you up when you fall. It makes the impossible seem possible because you see others doing hard things too. Here's your action step. Identify 3 to 5 people who could be potential mastermind partners. Reach out to them. Propose the idea. Be specific about the commitment, the format, and the expectations. If they're not interested, keep looking. The right people are out there. In the next chapter, we'll explore the transmutation of sexual energy, one of Hill's most controversial but powerful principles about channeling your most primal drives toward achievement. Chapter 10. The Mystery of Sex Transmutation. This is the chapter many people skip because they misunderstand it. Napoleon Hill isn't talking about sexual behavior. He's talking about sexual energy, the creative life force that drives human beings at the deepest level. Hill observed that the most successful men he studied possessed highly developed sex natures, but had learned to channel that energy into creative and productive pursuits. The desire for sexual expression is powerful, but it's also versatile. It can be transmuted, transformed into other forms of creative output. This concept might seem strange, but it's based on a fundamental truth. You have a finite amount of mental and physical energy. How you direct that energy determines your results. If all your energy is dissipated through excessive physical gratification, there's nothing left for building your goals. Ancient traditions understood this. Eastern practices like Tantra and Taoist sexual practices teach energy conservation and transmutation. The concept isn't about suppression. It's about direction. It's about taking powerful energy and channeling it purposefully. In the modern world, we're constantly being stimulated sexually. Advertising uses sexual imagery to capture attention. Social media is filled with it. Pornography is more accessible than ever. The average person is in a state of chronic sexual stimulation, which actually depletes rather than enhances creative energy. Hill's point is that when you learn to harness sexual energy without constant dissipation, you have access to a wellspring of creative power. Many great artists, inventors, and leaders have spoken about this, often indirectly. They talk about having intense drive, burning motivation, creative fire. Often, that fire is sexual energy transmuted into accomplishment. Consider the intense creative periods of great artists. Often these come during times of passionate love or sexual tension. The energy isn't ignored or suppressed. It's transformed into art, into music, into literature. The emotion is channeled into creation. Let's be clear, Hill is not advocating celibacy. He's advocating consciousness about how you use this powerful energy. He's suggesting that indiscriminate, constant sexual activity without deeper connection or purpose depletes your vitality and reduces your drive for other achievements. In practical terms, what does this mean for you? It means being aware of your energy levels and what affects them. It means not allowing yourself to be in a state of constant sexual stimulation that leaves you drained. It means channeling strong emotions and desires into your work, your art, your goals. Many high achievers intuitively do this without necessarily understanding the principle. They feel passionate emotion and they work. They create. They build. That passion isn't separate from their sexuality. It's connected to it. The same life force that creates physical life can create businesses, art, inventions, and impact. Modern research on dopamine supports this. Sexual stimulation releases dopamine, the motivation chemical. But so does achievement, creative work, and progress toward goals. These activities share the same neurological pathways. When you train your brain to get its dopamine from achievement rather than constant sexual stimulation, you become more driven toward your goals. Here's the key insight. Every time you feel strong desire or passion, you have a choice. You can dissipate that energy immediately through gratification, or you can redirect it into productive activity. Both are valid choices, but they lead to different outcomes. Think about it this way. If you're feeling intense energy, restlessness, desire, and you channel that into your work, you'll accomplish more in 2 hours than you normally would in a week. Your creativity will be heightened. Your focus will be sharper. Your output will be higher quality. Alternatively, if you immediately dissipate that energy, you'll feel temporarily satisfied but then lethargic, unmotivated, and without drive. This is especially true with the easy dopamine hits available today through digital means. Hill also notes that sexual energy is most potent when combined with love. When you're in a loving relationship that inspires you, when you're creating something meaningful, when you're driven by passion for your purpose, sexual energy enhances everything. It's when it's separated from meaning that it becomes merely depleting. Here's your action step, and this requires honesty with yourself. Evaluate your relationship with sexual energy. Are you constantly seeking stimulation? Is it draining your drive for other things? Are you aware of your energy levels and what affects them? Start paying attention. When you feel strong desire or passion, try channeling it into productive work before seeking immediate gratification. Notice the difference in your output and energy. This isn't about judgment. It's about optimization. You're an energy system. Managing your energy wisely is fundamental to achievement. Sexual energy is one of the most powerful forms of energy you have. Use it consciously. In the next chapter, we'll discuss the subconscious mind, the connecting link between your conscious thoughts and infinite intelligence. Chapter 11. The subconscious mind. The connecting link. Your subconscious mind is always active, never sleeping, constantly processing information and directing your body's functions. But more than that, it's the medium through which your thoughts are transmitted to infinite intelligence and through which you receive inspiration and ideas. Napoleon Hill emphasizes that you cannot completely control your subconscious mind, but you can voluntarily hand over any plan, desire, or purpose you wish transformed into physical reality. The subconscious works best when you feed it thoughts mixed with emotion, particularly the positive emotions of faith, love, enthusiasm, and desire. This is why all the previous principles involve emotional intensity, burning desire, faith backed by feeling, persistence driven by purpose. These aren't just abstract concepts. They're instructions for programming your subconscious mind. Your subconscious doesn't distinguish between positive and negative, constructive or destructive inputs. It simply accepts what you feed it most consistently and with the most emotion, then works to manifest it in your reality. Think about worry, which is essentially negative goal setting. When you worry, you're vividly imagining negative outcomes with strong emotion. Your subconscious accepts this as instruction and begins directing your behaviors and interpretations toward making that negative outcome real. You become more likely to notice and remember things that confirm your worry. The same mechanism works positively. When you consistently imagine positive outcomes with strong emotion, your subconscious accepts this as instruction and begins directing you toward opportunities, solutions, and actions that make those outcomes real. In the modern world, most people are unconsciously programming their subconscious negatively. They consume news that triggers fear. They engage in conversations focused on problems and complaints. They scroll social media and compare themselves unfavorably to others. All of this programs the subconscious with limitations, fears, and negative expectations. The conscious reprogramming of the subconscious mind is one of the most powerful practices you can engage in. This is why autosuggestion, visualization, and affirmations work when done correctly. You're not changing reality through wishful thinking. You're changing the instructions you're giving to the most powerful processor you have access to. Here's how to work effectively with your subconscious. First, be vigilant about what you expose yourself to, especially in the last hour before sleep and first hour after waking. These are when your subconscious is most receptive. Don't scroll social media or watch news in bed. Instead, read something inspirational, review your goals, or practice visualization. Second, use written statements of your desires and goals, read with emotion and conviction multiple times per day. This is direct communication with your subconscious. Third, cultivate positive emotions deliberately. Gratitude, love, enthusiasm, joy. These put your subconscious in a receptive state for positive programming. Negative emotions like fear, anger, and jealousy put it in a state that attracts more negativity. Fourth, pay attention to hunches and intuitions. These are messages from your subconscious. Often, your subconscious has processed information and made connections that your conscious mind hasn't yet recognized. Those gut feelings are worth listening to. Fifth, use the time just before sleep for subconscious programming. As you're falling asleep, hold your primary goal in mind with positive emotion. Your subconscious will work on it while you sleep. Many great inventors and artists have reported waking up with solutions that eluded them consciously. Modern neuroscience supports all of this. We now know that the brain continues processing information during sleep, making connections, consolidating memories, and solving problems. When you prime it with a specific question or goal before sleep, you're more likely to wake up with insights. Thomas Edison deliberately used this. He would think about the problem he was working on, then take a nap holding metal balls in his hands. As he fell asleep and his muscles relaxed, The balls would drop and wake him. He'd immediately record any insights that came in that transition state between conscious and subconscious. Salvador Dali did something similar. Many creators have intuitively understood that the subconscious is a powerful ally if you know how to work with it. You can also use your subconscious to tap into what Hill calls infinite intelligence. This is the source of all ideas, innovation, and creative inspiration. When you calm your conscious mind through meditation or deep focus, you create space for insights to emerge from deeper sources. This might sound mystical, but it's quite practical. Your conscious mind can only hold so much information and make so many calculations. Your subconscious processes vastly more. And there's mounting evidence that consciousness itself may be more interconnected than we realize. Call it intuition, call it inspiration, call it universal mind. The label matters less than the function. The point is, you have access to intelligence beyond your conscious analytical mind. And you access it by quieting the noise, asking clear questions, and then listening. Here's your action step. Tonight, before sleep, write down your most important current challenge or goal. Review it, then visualize it resolved successfully. Feel the emotion of success. Then let it go and sleep. Keep a notebook by your bed. If you wake up with insights, write them down immediately. Do this for 7 nights and see what emerges. In the next chapter, we'll explore the brain as a broadcasting and receiving station for thought, connecting you to infinite intelligence and to the minds of others. Chapter 12. The brain a broadcasting and receiving station for thought. Napoleon Hill was writing about concepts that seemed almost mystical in the 1930s but are increasingly supported by modern science. He proposed that every human brain is capable of picking up vibrations of thought from other brains. That the ether is saturated with thought vibrations which any brain can tune into. Today, we might describe this differently. We talk about mirror neurons, which fire in your brain when you observe someone else performing an action, as if you were performing it yourself. We talk about emotional contagion, how emotions spread through groups. We talk about collective consciousness and groupthink. Whatever terminology you use, the principle is clear. You are influenced by the thoughts of those around you and you influence them. This happens both consciously through communication and unconsciously through some mechanism we don't fully understand. This is why Hill emphasized the importance of the mastermind so strongly. When you surround yourself with people thinking at a high level, your own thinking elevates. When you're constantly around negative, limited thinkers, your thinking contracts. This isn't just about what people say. It's about the mental atmosphere you're immersed in. Think about how you feel in different environments. Walk into a church, temple, or meditation center, and you feel a certain quality. Walk into a courtroom or hospital, and you feel something different. Walk into a startup office full of energized entrepreneurs, and you feel something else entirely. The physical space is part of it, but it's also the accumulated thought energy of everyone who spends time there. In the modern world, this principle extends to your digital environment. The accounts you follow, the content you consume, the online communities you participate in, all of these are broadcasting thought vibrations that you're receiving. If you spend hours a day consuming content from people who are cynical, fearful, or focus on problems, that frequency affects your thinking. Conversely, if you curate your digital environment to include inspiring, educational, and elevated content, you're tuning your mental receiver to a higher frequency. He'll also believe that the brain could communicate directly with infinite intelligence, the source of all ideas and creative inspiration. He suggested that every truly original idea comes from this source, accessed through the subconscious mind when the conscious mind is quieted. Today, many high performers practice meditation not for spiritual reasons, but because they've discovered that in states of mental quietude, insights emerge. Solutions to problems they've been working on suddenly become clear. Creative ideas appear fully formed. This isn't magic. It's accessing different processing modes in the brain. The conscious analytical mind is excellent at linear thinking and executing known processes. But it's terrible at creative breakthrough. That requires getting out of analytical mode and accessing diffuse thinking, where unexpected connections can form. Here's how to use these principles practically. First, protect your mental environment ruthlessly. Choose carefully who you spend time with, both physically and digitally. Unfollow accounts that leave you feeling worse. Stop engaging in conversations that drain you. Seek out people and content that elevate your thinking. Second, regularly practice getting into states where your conscious analytical mind quiets. This could be meditation, long walks in nature, intense exercise, artistic creation, or any activity that induces flow state. In these states, you're more receptive to insight and intuition. Third, when facing a difficult problem, use the technique of stating the problem clearly, then deliberately letting it go. Do something completely different. Often, the solution will appear when you're not consciously thinking about it. Fourth, pay attention to the quality of your thoughts. Remember, your brain is a broadcasting station. You're not just receiving thought vibrations from others. You're sending them out. The quality of your thinking affects not just you but everyone around you. This isn't responsibility to take lightly. Fifth, use affirmations and visualization to tune your mental receiver to the frequency of what you want to achieve. If you want to attract opportunities, think thoughts of opportunity. If you want to attract abundance, think thoughts of abundance. This isn't wishful thinking. It's setting your attention and awareness to notice what aligns with those thoughts. Modern research on attention confirms this. You see what you're looking for. If you're convinced the world is dangerous and people are untrustworthy, you'll notice every piece of evidence that confirms this. If you believe the world is full of opportunity and people are generally good, you'll notice evidence of that instead. The facts exist for both perspectives. What you notice depends on where your attention is tuned. Here's your action step. Audit your mental environment. List the top 5 people you spend time with. List the top 5 sources of information you consume regularly. For each, ask, is this elevating my thinking or contracting it? Make adjustments accordingly. Then, start a practice of deliberate mental quieting, even just 10 minutes a day. Notice what emerges. In the next chapter, we'll explore the sixth sense, the door to the Temple of Wisdom, where you can tap directly into infinite intelligence. Chapter 13. The sixth sense, the door to the Temple of Wisdom. This is the most abstract of Napoleon Hill's principles, and he admits it may not be fully comprehensible until you've mastered the other 12. The sixth sense is that sense through which infinite intelligence may communicate voluntarily, without effort on your part. Hill describes it as creative imagination in its most exalted form. It's the faculty through which hunches and inspirations come. It's the receiving set through which ideas, plans, and thoughts flash into the mind, often from unknown sources. In modern terms, we might call this intuition, flow state, or accessing the collective unconscious. Whatever you call it, most highly successful people report experiencing it. They describe moments where they just knew something without knowing how they knew, where ideas came fully formed without apparent source, where decisions felt obviously right despite contradicting logic. Steve Jobs was famous for his intuition. He made decisions based on feeling that analysts couldn't understand, but that consistently proved brilliant. He talked about the intersection of technology and liberal arts, between logic and emotion, between reason and intuition. He understood that the highest form of intelligence accesses both. Athletes call it being in the zone. Artists call it the muse. Inventors call it inspiration. The label changes, but the experience is consistent. A state where you're accessing intelligence beyond your normal conscious capacity. Hill suggests that the sixth sense is cultivated through meditation, through quieting the conscious mind, and through raising your overall consciousness through mastery of the other principles. It's not something you force. It's something you allow by creating the right conditions. In practical terms, developing your sixth sense means learning to trust your intuition while still using your intellect. It means noticing the subtle feelings and hunches that arise and treating them as data worth considering. It means creating space in your life for insight to emerge. Most people never develop their sixth sense because their minds are constantly full of noise. They're always consuming, always reacting, always in their analytical mind. There's no space for anything subtle to come through. Here's how to develop this capacity. First, practice daily meditation or contemplation. Start with just 10 minutes. Sit quietly, focus on your breath, and let thoughts pass without attachment. This trains your ability to quiet the conscious mind. Second, pay attention to your body's signals. Often, intuition speaks through physical sensations. A feeling in your gut, tension in your shoulders, a sense of expansion in your chest. Learn your body's language. Third, track your hunches and intuitions. Write them down. Note when they prove accurate and when they don't. Over time, you'll learn to distinguish true intuition from fear, wishful thinking, or random thoughts. Fourth, before making important decisions, create space for intuition. After you've gathered information and analyzed rationally, sit with the decision quietly. Notice what emerges. Often, the right choice will feel obvious in these quiet moments. Fifth, ask questions before sleep and upon waking. The transition states between waking and sleeping are when the sixth sense is most accessible. Pose your question clearly, then let it go. Be alert for answers in dreams, morning thoughts, or synchronicities during the day. Modern science is beginning to validate what Hill observed. Research shows that the unconscious mind processes vastly more information than the conscious mind. It makes calculations and pattern recognitions that never reach conscious awareness but inform our gut feelings. Studies have shown that people make better decisions when they trust their intuition in certain contexts, particularly in areas where they have experience. Expert intuition, developed through thousands of hours of practice, is incredibly accurate. The grandmaster can see the right chess move immediately. The experienced investor can sense when something's off in a company's numbers. The skilled negotiator knows when to push and when to pull. This isn't mystical. It's highly developed pattern recognition operating below conscious awareness. But the effect is the same as what Hill called the sixth sense. You know without knowing how you know. Here's your final action step for this chapter. Begin developing a relationship with your intuition. Each morning, ask yourself a simple question. What do I most need to know today? Then sit quietly for 5 minutes and listen. Don't force answers. Just be open. Write down anything that comes, even if it seems silly. Do this for 30 days and you'll be amazed at what develops. In the next chapter, we'll explore the 6 ghosts of fear, the obstacles that prevent most people from ever achieving their desires. Chapter 14. The 6 Ghosts of Fear. Napoleon Hill concludes his teachings by addressing the obstacles that prevent people from applying these principles. He identifies 6 basic fears that haunt humanity, and until you master these fears, all the knowledge in the world won't help you succeed. The 6 fears are fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of ill health, fear of loss of love, fear of old age, and fear of death. Let's explore each one and how they manifest in modern life. Fear of poverty is perhaps the most destructive. It paralyzes action. It makes people cling to security even when that security is an illusion. It prevents people from taking the calculated risks necessary for significant achievement. In today's world, this fear manifests as staying in jobs you hate because they're safe, not starting the business you dream about because it might fail, not investing in yourself or your education because you might lose money. This fear is often instilled in childhood. If you grew up with scarcity, if you heard constant worry about money, if you experienced poverty, this fear likely runs deep. But recognize it for what it is, a mental program that can be changed. Poverty is a mindset before it's a condition, and wealth, true wealth, begins in the mind. Fear of criticism stops more dreams than failure ever will. People don't try because they're afraid of what others will say. They don't express their ideas because they might be ridiculed. They don't stand out because they might be judged. This fear creates a life of conformity and mediocrity. In the age of social media, fear of criticism is amplified. Everything you do is potentially visible to thousands or millions. The possibility of public humiliation is real. But here's the truth. Criticism is inevitable if you do anything worth doing. The only way to avoid criticism is to do nothing, say nothing, be nothing. And that's not a life worth living. Fear of ill health manifests as hypochondria, excessive worry about disease, and stress-induced actual illness. The mind-body connection is real. Chronic worry about health often creates the very conditions being worried about. In modern times, this fear is fed by constant health news, by pharmaceutical advertising listing every possible side effect, by internet searches that turn every minor symptom into a terminal diagnosis. Fear of loss of love makes people stay in toxic relationships, compromise their values to please others, and lose themselves trying to make others happy. It prevents authentic self-expression because authenticity might lead to rejection. In modern dating culture, where options are infinite and commitment is optional, this fear is perhaps stronger than ever. Fear of old age is the fear of being useless, unimportant, unattractive, or irrelevant as you age. Society worships youth, and this creates anxiety about aging. People resist getting older instead of embracing the wisdom and freedom that can come with it. This fear often leads to poor decisions, like refusing to plan for the future or making desperate attempts to appear young. Fear of death is the ultimate fear underlying all others. It's why people avoid taking risks, why they play it safe, why they settle for less than they're capable of. The paradox is that by fearing death, they never truly live. They exist in a kind of living death, going through the motions but never fully engaging. Here's what Hill understood. These fears are not based in reality. They're largely imaginary. Most of what we worry about never happens. And even when negative events do occur, they're rarely as devastating as we imagined. The fear itself causes more suffering than the actual events. So how do you conquer these fears? First, name them. What are you actually afraid of? Be specific. Vague fears are powerful because they're undefined. When you clearly articulate what you're afraid of, it often seems less frightening. Second, question the fear. Is it rational? What's the worst that could actually happen? Could you survive it? Often, you realize that even the worst-case scenario is manageable. Third, take action despite the fear. Action is the antidote to fear. When you act, you prove to yourself that the fear was overblown. Each action builds courage for the next. Fourth, reframe failure. What you call failure is actually feedback. It's data. It's education. Every successful person has failed repeatedly. The difference is they didn't let fear of failure stop them from trying. Fifth, surround yourself with courageous people. Fear is contagious, but so is courage. When you're around people who take bold action, you absorb some of that fearlessness. Here's your action step. Write down your dominant fear. Be honest. Then write down everything that fear has cost you. Opportunities not taken. Dreams not pursued. Experiences not had. Let yourself feel the cost. Then write down what you would do if you weren't afraid. Finally, commit to doing one thing this week that scares you. Small or large, doesn't matter. Just do something fear has been preventing. In the final chapter, we'll tie everything together and discuss how these timeless principles apply to your life right now. Chapter 15. Bringing it all together in the modern world, we've covered 13 principles that Napoleon Hill distilled from 20 years of studying the most successful people of his era. Nearly a century later, these principles remain as relevant as ever. But the question is, how do you apply them in your life today? The world Hill studied was different in many ways. There was no internet, no smartphones, no social media, no global instant communication. And yet human nature, the psychology of success, the principles that govern achievement, these haven't changed at all. Let's talk about how each principle applies specifically to the modern world. Desire. In a world of infinite options and constant distraction, having a singular burning desire is rarer and therefore more valuable than ever. Most people want everything and therefore achieve nothing. Your ability to choose one primary aim and pursue it obsessively is your competitive advantage.
Faith. In an age of cynicism and doubt, where every belief is challenged and nothing seems certain, faith in yourself and your vision is revolutionary.
You must believe you can succeed in a world that will constantly present evidence to the contrary. Autosuggestion. You're being programmed every moment by media, advertising, and culture. If you're not deliberately programming yourself, you're accepting whatever programming is being pushed on you. Take control of your mental inputs. Specialized knowledge. The internet has democratized access to knowledge. You can learn anything. But most people never do because they're distracted by entertainment. Your willingness to systematically acquire specialized knowledge while others watch Netflix is a massive advantage. Imagination. AI and automation are replacing routine work. The one thing that can't be automated is creative imagination. Your ability to envision new possibilities and solve problems creatively is more valuable now than any time in history. Organized planning. In a world moving at breakneck speed, those who can plan strategically while remaining flexible will dominate. Agile planning, rapid iteration, and strategic pivots are the modern expression of this principle. Decision. In an age of infinite information and paralysis by analysis, the ability to make decisions quickly and commit to them fully is a superpower. While others are still researching, you're already getting results and learning. Persistence. The internet has shortened everyone's attention span. Most people quit after days or weeks. Your willingness to persist for months or years gives you an unbeatable advantage. The game rewards patience. Mastermind. Technology makes it easier than ever to form masterminds with people anywhere in the world. You can build your ideal group of allies regardless of geography. Use this to your advantage. Transmutation of sexual energy. In a world of unlimited sexual stimulation and instant gratification, your ability to harness and channel this energy into creative pursuits sets you apart. While others are constantly distracted and depleted, you're focused and energized. Subconscious mind. With understanding of neuroscience and psychology, you can program your subconscious more effectively than Hill ever could. You have the knowledge. Do you have the discipline to apply it? The brain. You're connected to more minds than ever through the internet. But are they elevating you or dragging you down? Curate your connections. Raise your frequency. Surround yourself with excellence. Sixth sense. In a noisy world, the ability to access quiet inner wisdom is rare and precious. Develop your intuition. Learn to trust yourself. Create space for insight. Overcoming fear. The fears are the same, but amplified. Social media amplifies fear of criticism. Economic uncertainty amplifies fear of poverty. Information overload amplifies fear of illness. But the antidote is the same: courage through action. Here's the ultimate truth. These principles work. They worked 100 years ago. They work today. They'll work 100 years from now. Why? Because they're not based on temporary conditions or technologies. They're based on human psychology and the laws that govern achievement. The question isn't whether these principles work. The question is whether you'll apply them. And that's entirely up to you. You now have the blueprint. The same blueprint that created fortunes in the industrial age can create them in the digital age. The same principles that built empires when communication was by telegram can build them when communication is instant. But knowledge without action is useless. You must apply what you've learned. You must make these principles part of your daily practice. You must live them, not just know them. Here's your final action step. Choose one principle to focus on for the next 30 days. Just one. Master it. Live it. Let it transform how you think and act. Then choose another. Over time, these principles will become part of who you are. And when that happens, success becomes inevitable. Remember Edison's words, which Hill often quoted: "Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration." You have the inspiration now. You have the knowledge. What you do with it determines everything. The timeless principles of success are yours. Use them wisely. Use them consistently. And watch as your life transforms in ways you can barely imagine now. Conclusion. Your success journey begins now. You've journeyed through nearly a century of wisdom. From Napoleon Hill's interviews with Carnegie, Ford, Edison, and Rockefeller to the modern applications of their timeless principles. You've learned that success isn't mysterious or reserved for the chosen few. It's a process, a system, a set of principles that anyone can apply. Let's distill the essence of everything we've covered into one simple truth. Success is created in your mind first, then manifested in your reality. Everything you've learned in this audiobook has been about mastering your mind, programming it for success, and then taking the actions that transform mental creation into physical reality. The 13 principles work together as a system. Desire provides the fuel. Faith provides the belief. Autosuggestion provides the programming. Specialized knowledge provides the tools. Imagination provides the blueprint. Organized planning provides the roadmap. Decision provides the commitment. Persistence provides the stamina. Mastermind provides the multiplication. The remaining principles provide the refinement. But none of it matters if you don't act. Hill studied thousands of people. Some succeeded spectacularly. Most did not. The difference wasn't intelligence. It wasn't circumstances. It wasn't luck. It was application. The successful ones took what they learned and used it relentlessly. The unsuccessful ones knew the principles but never applied them. Which will you be? Right now, you're at a crossroads. You can close this audiobook feeling inspired, maybe make a few notes, and then drift back into your old patterns. Or you can decide that this is the moment your life changes. That from this day forward you will live by these principles. You will make them part of your daily practice. You will refuse to accept mediocrity. The choice is yours. But understand this. You've been given something precious. Knowledge that has transformed millions of lives. A blueprint for success that has been tested and proven over nearly a century. If you don't use it, that's not the fault of the principles. It's a choice you're making. Napoleon Hill spent 20 years of his life researching these principles so you wouldn't have to. He interviewed over 500 successful people so you could learn from their collective wisdom. He crystallized it all into a system you can follow. Honor that gift by using it. Start today. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. Choose your definite chief aim. Write it down. Read it with emotion. Visualize it as already achieved. Take one action toward it. Then tomorrow, do the same. And the next day. And the next. Build your mastermind. Acquire specialized knowledge. Make decisions quickly. Persist through obstacles. Program your subconscious. Overcome your fears. One day at a time, one principle at a time, you will transform. And 5 years from now, when you look back at this moment, you'll recognize it as the turning point. The day you decided to stop being ordinary and start being extraordinary. The day you claimed your right to success. The principles are timeless. The moment is now. Your success journey begins today. Now go make it happen.